What if I told you that for years you've been tiptoeing around on the ice for absolutely no reason? Or even worse, what if I told you that your quiet shuffle is actually making more of the wrong kind of noise than a solid, confident step? It sounds crazy, I know. Today we're drilling down into one of the oldest, most sacred rules of ice fishing. Do your footsteps on the ice really scare the fish away? We're going to separate the old-timer's tale from the hard science, and I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll never walk on a frozen lake the same way again. We're about to uncover the truth about sound, ice, and fish behavior, and the answer is not what your grandpa taught you. So, let me know right now in the comments. Are you a walk on eggshells kind of angler, or do you stomp around like you own the place? Let's see who's been doing it right all along. Think about it. From the very first time someone took you out on the hard water, the rule was probably drilled into your head. Shh, be quiet. You see it everywhere. Fishermen communicating in hushed tones, gear being set down as if it were a sleeping baby. A collective wince from everyone in the shack when someone inevitably drops a thermos. This belief is woven into the very fabric of ice fishing culture. It's passed down from generation to generation, an undisputed truth. And it makes sense on the surface, right? We're taught that wild animals are easily spooked by loud, unnatural noises. So we transfer that logic directly to the fish swimming just a few feet beneath us. For decades, we've operated under the assumption that silence equals success. But what if the ice itself changes the rules of the game? What if the very thing we're trying to avoid, noise, is misunderstood? That's the question we're tackling today, because blindly following tradition can sometimes be the biggest mistake of all. First, let's get a handle on the science of sound itself, because it behaves very differently depending on where it's traveling. Think about sound in the air, where we live. It's relatively slow and loses energy quickly. You can yell across a parking lot, but a mile away, you're just a faint echo. Now, let's consider water. Sound travels more than 4 times faster in water than in air, and it carries its energy much, much further. This is why whales can communicate across vast oceans. Then you have a solid, like ice. Sound moves through ice even faster and more efficiently than it does through water. So we have this layered cake of sound physics. Your boot hits the ice, a solid which transfers the sound into the water, a liquid where the fish lives. It's not a simple one-to-one transfer. The way the sound moves from the air to your boot to the ice and then to the water is a complex journey. And understanding this path is the first step in figuring out what the fish down below actually experiences when you take a step. So, we've established that sound travels differently through these layers. Now we have to ask the most important question. What can a fish actually hear? Or, more accurately, what can it feel? Fish have 2 primary ways of sensing sound. They have an inner ear, similar to ours, which picks up sound waves. But more importantly, especially for our purposes, they have a lateral line. This is an incredible sensory organ that runs along the sides of their body. It's a series of pores and nerve endings that detect subtle changes in water pressure and low-frequency vibrations. Think of it less like an ear and more like a whole-body sonar system. It can feel the displacement of water from a swimming baitfish, the panic of a struggling minnow, or the pressure wave from a heavy object hitting the ice above. This distinction is critical. They don't just hear a thump, they feel the thump's shockwave ripple through their environment. This is why the type of sound is so much more important than the volume. Now let's talk about the specific types of sound we make on the ice. We generally create 2 kinds, high-frequency and low-frequency sounds. High-frequency sounds are things like your voice, the scraping of a shovel, or the high-pitched whine of your ice cleats on glare ice. These are the sounds that seem loud to our human ears. Low-frequency sounds are the deep thuds and booms, the sound of dropping your auger, slamming a shack door, or most importantly, the heavy percussive impact of a heel strike when you walk. The key here is understanding how these two types of sound travel from your world into theirs. The transition from the solid ice to the liquid water acts as a filter. High-frequency sounds have a very hard time making that jump. Much of their energy is reflected or dampened. The low-frequency sounds, however, travel through the ice and couple with the water column much more effectively, sending out those pressure waves we just talked about. This is a game-changing piece of the puzzle. So if high-frequency sounds are largely filtered out, what does that mean for us on the ice? It means that many of the things we worry about are probably not a big deal. For example, talking to your buddy in a normal voice. The sound waves from your voice travel through the air, hit the ice, and a huge percentage of that energy is lost. Very little of that high-frequency chatter is likely to penetrate the water in a way that a fish would interpret as a threat. The same goes for the zzz sound of your zipper or the crinkle of a bag of chips. To our ears, in the dead quiet of a frozen lake, these sounds seem incredibly loud. But to the walleye 10 feet below, they are likely faint, muffled, and completely irrelevant. They are not the kind of pressure-based signals that their lateral line is designed to interpret as danger. This is our first major myth busted. You can probably stop whispering. Let's get to the real culprit then. If talking isn't the problem, what is? It's that low-frequency impact. Let's paint a picture. You're walking out to your spot. With every step, your heavy insulated boot comes down and your heel strikes the ice. Thump. That impact isn't just a sound. It's a physical transfer of energy. You are creating a miniature seismic event. That thump is a low-frequency wave that propagates through the ice with incredible efficiency. When this wave hits the boundary between the ice and the water, it doesn't just bounce off. It pushes down on the water, creating a pressure wave that radiates outwards and downwards. To the fish below, this is not a distant noise. It is a direct physical sensation. It's the equivalent of someone stomping on the floor in the room above you. It's impossible to ignore, and it's a signal that almost universally means one thing in the natural world. Something large and heavy is approaching. In other words, a potential predator. Now here comes the paradox, the part that goes against everything we've been taught. Let's compare two fishermen. Fisherman A is trying to be quiet. He shuffles his feet, taking short, scraping steps. His ice cleats are making a constant high-frequency grind crunch sound. To his buddy, he sounds like he's walking on broken glass. Fisherman B isn't thinking about it. He's just walking with a normal, smooth, rolling gait, heel to toe. He's not stomping, but he's not shuffling either. His steps are rhythmic and evenly paced. According to old wisdom, Fisherman A is doing it right. But based on the science, Fisherman A is creating a lot of high-frequency noise that the fish probably can't hear very well anyway. Fisherman B, by walking smoothly, is minimizing the sharp, percussive heel strikes. He's creating less of that low-frequency thump that actually travels to the fish. So who is really being quieter from the fish's perspective? It's very likely the guy who is just walking normally and smoothly. Let's expand on this idea of smoothness over silence. Your goal shouldn't be to eliminate all noise. That's impossible. Your goal should be to eliminate sudden, sharp, jarring impacts. Think about setting up your gear. Instead of dropping your 5-gallon bucket from waist height, creating a loud boom that sends a shockwave through the ice, bend your knees and place it down gently. When you get your auger, don't just let it fall over onto the ice with a crash. Lay it down with control. It's the same principle as walking. A sudden, unexpected impact is an alarm bell for fish. It's an unnatural event that signals danger. In contrast, more constant or rhythmic sounds, even loud ones, can be something fish get used to. An auger drilling a hole is loud, for sure. But after the initial shock, the constant drone might be less alarming than the random sharp crack of someone dropping their ice scoop right over a fish's head. It's all about the nature of the vibration. Consider the role of snow cover. Snow is one of your best friends when it comes to sound dampening. A thick blanket of snow acts like acoustic insulation. It absorbs the energy of your footsteps before it can be efficiently transferred to the hard ice. Walking on a few inches of snow is naturally softer and creates a much more muffled, less percussive impact. This is why on those early ice days with no snow cover, being mindful of your steps is far more critical. On glare ice, every single heel strike is like hitting a drum. The energy transfer is incredibly direct and efficient. But when you have a good layer of snow, it provides a buffer. This doesn't mean you can start doing jumping jacks, but it does mean the environment is more forgiving. So if you're fishing on bare black ice, that's when you really need to focus on that smooth rolling walk and gentle placement of your gear. The conditions dictate how careful you truly need to be. Let's talk about the dreaded ice crack. We've all been there. You take a step and a loud crack echoes across the lake. Your heart jumps into your throat, and you're sure every fish within 100 yards just bolted. But did they? While the sound is terrifying to us, think about what it is from a physics perspective. It's a high-frequency sound traveling through the ice, but it's also a release of tension, a vibration. Natural ice is always making noise. It cracks, groans, and pops as it expands and contracts with temperature changes. Fish that live under the ice are accustomed to this. It's part of the natural soundtrack of their world. A sudden man-made thump is an alien sound. A crack from the ice itself, while loud, might be interpreted as a natural event. I'm not saying it doesn't spook them at all, but it's very possible that the loud, sharp crack of the ice shifting is less alarming to a fish than the rhythmic, predatory thump, thump, thump of your heavy boots walking directly above it. Let's apply this to a real-world fishing scenario. You found a spot on your fish finder. You can see a school of perch or a big walleye marked right below you. This is the moment of truth. This is not the time to get clumsy. The absolute worst thing you can do now is start stomping your feet to get the circulation back. That repeated low-frequency pounding is like dropping bombs on their position. Instead, if your feet are cold, walk a short distance away from your hole to do it. When you drill your hole, the initial noise is unavoidable, but once it's done, try to be smooth. Don't kick slush around with your boot. Use your scoop. Don't drop your rod on the ice. Place it on a holder or your bucket. Every single action you take should be viewed through this lens. Am I creating a sharp, percussive impact? If the answer is yes, find a smoother, gentler way to do it. The fish are right there. This is when your attention to detail will pay off the most. What about the noise of the auger itself? This is a common debate. Some guys will drill all their holes at once at the start of the day to get the noise over with. Others drill as they go. The auger is undeniably loud. It sends massive vibrations through the ice and water. There's no question it temporarily affects the fish in the immediate vicinity. However, it's also a relatively constant noise while it's running. It's a drone, not a sharp impact. Many experienced anglers believe that while the drilling might push fish out from the immediate area, they often return out of curiosity after the noise stops. The sound is so common on busy lakes that it might be a signal that fishermen are present. And where there are fishermen, there is often bait and lures, a potential meal. So while the auger is a major disturbance, it might not be the day ender we think it is. The random sharp noises you make after drilling could be far more detrimental to your success. Now, let's consider different fish species. Do they all react the same way? Probably not. A school of small, aggressive perch might be less wary of noise than a single, large, cautious walleye. Panfish like crappie and bluegill, which often suspend higher in the water column and rely on sight, might be more attuned to shadows and movements from above than just sound alone. But a bottom-hugging walleye or a lake trout in deep water is highly dependent on its lateral line to sense what's happening in its environment. They are masters of detecting vibration. For these more sensitive, often larger predators, minimizing those low-frequency thumps is absolutely crucial. You might get away with being clumsy when you're chasing small perch in a group, but if you're hunting for that trophy fish of a lifetime, you have to assume it's incredibly wary and will react negatively to any unnatural, heavy vibration from above. You have to adapt your approach to the fish you're targeting. This brings us to the concept of hole hopping, or moving around to find active fish. This is where many anglers shoot themselves in the foot. They fish a hole for 10 minutes, get impatient, then quickly stand up, stomp their feet a few times, and march 50 feet away to drill a new hole. In doing so, they've just sent out massive "I am leaving" signals through the ice, potentially spooking any fish that were slowly moving in to investigate their lure. A better approach? Move with purpose, but with smoothness. When you decide to leave a hole, do it quietly. Stand up slowly. Walk with that smooth, rolling gait. Think of yourself as a predator trying to be stealthy, not just a person walking across a field. The fish you're leaving might be the ones you want to catch at the next hole over, so don't announce your departure with a series of loud thuds. Every movement on the ice is a piece of information you're sending to the fish. Let's talk about ice shacks and shelters. These can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, they block the wind and hide your shadow, which is a huge advantage. On the other hand, they can become echo chambers. Every time you drop something on the floor of your hard-sided shack, that sound is amplified and transferred directly to the ice through the shack's frame. It's even worse than dropping it on the open ice. This is why it's a great idea to put down rubber mats or pieces of foam flooring inside your shack. This insulation absorbs those impacts and vibrations before they can get to the ice. It's a simple trick that can make a massive difference. You can move around, adjust your heater, and grab your gear without feeling like you're playing a drum for the fish directly below you. It's a small investment in stealth that can pay big dividends in your catch rate, especially on those long, cold days when you're spending hours inside. Think about the sounds that fish want to hear. The subtle click of a tungsten jig hitting a rock on the bottom, the vibration of a rattling lure, the frantic pulse of a struggling minnow. These are all sounds and vibrations that signal food. Your job as an angler is to maximize the food signals and minimize the danger signals. The problem is that a big, clumsy footstep sends a vibration that is 100 times more powerful than the delicate vibrations from your lure. It's like trying to whisper to a friend at a rock concert. The danger signal of your footsteps completely drowns out the subtle food signal from your presentation. By learning to move smoothly and quietly on the ice, you are clearing the stage. You are allowing the subtle, enticing sounds of your lure to be the main performance, the one thing the fish focuses on, instead of being distracted or terrified by the earthquake happening on the ceiling of their world. Let's put this into a final practical checklist for your next trip. 1. If there is snow, walk in it. It's your free natural sound dampener. 2. On bare ice, consciously walk with a smooth rolling heel-to-toe motion. Avoid stomping or letting your heels slam down. 3. When you handle your gear, your auger, bucket, rods, scoop, do it with deliberation. Place things down, don't drop them. 4. Inside a shack, use foam or rubber mats on the floor to absorb impacts. 5. If you need to stomp your feet to stay warm, walk a good distance away from where you are actively fishing to do it. 6. Stop worrying so much about talking. Have a conversation with your buddy. The fish almost certainly do not care. By focusing on these 6 things, you are focusing on minimizing the low-frequency impacts that actually matter, and ignoring the high-frequency noises that probably don't. This entire concept can be a tough pill to swallow, especially if you've been ice fishing for 30 or 40 years and have always subscribed to the total silence rule. It can feel wrong to stop tiptoeing, but science and underwater acoustics don't lie. And if you think about it, it aligns with what we see in nature. A predator, like a fox walking on snow, doesn't scrape its feet. It walks with a smooth, deliberate, and soft placement of its paws to minimize the very vibrations that would alert its prey. We should be thinking the same way. We are predators in this scenario, and our movements should reflect that. It's not about being silent like a ghost. It's about moving with the deadly smooth efficiency of a hunter. This is a mental shift from don't make any noise to don't make any sharp, scary vibrations. It's a more nuanced and ultimately a more effective way to approach stealth on the ice. Let's consider one more scenario. A busy lake on a Saturday. There are dozens of people out there. Trucks are driving on the ice, augers are running constantly, and people are walking everywhere. In this environment, the baseline level of noise and vibration is very high. Fish living in this environment are likely more conditioned and less spooky than fish on a remote, quiet backwoods pond. Here, a single footstep is less likely to stand out against the constant background hum. However, a sudden, sharp impact right on top of them can still trigger a flight response. Imagine being in a bustling city. The constant noise of traffic becomes background white noise. But if a car backfires right next to your ear, you're still going to jump. It's the same principle. Even on a busy lake, your personal stealth, your ability to avoid making sudden, sharp impacts in your immediate fishing zone, still gives you a significant edge over the guy next to you who is carelessly dropping his gear all over the place. So, is the sound of your footsteps the real reason you're not catching fish? The answer is a classic yes and no. The sound itself, the audible crunch or scrape that you hear, is probably not the problem. But the impact, the low-frequency vibration that your footstep creates, very well could be the single biggest reason you're spooking fish before your lure even gets to them, especially wary, larger fish. The mistake we've been making for generations is lumping all noise into one category. We've been so focused on the high-frequency sounds our ears pick up easily that we've ignored the low-frequency vibrations that a fish's lateral line is perfectly designed to detect as a threat. By understanding this difference, we can fundamentally change our behavior on the ice. We can stop shushing our friends and start focusing on moving with a smooth, deliberate grace that will genuinely make us stealthier anglers. Ultimately, what does this all mean for you? It means you can relax a little bit about certain things and be more mindful of others. You have permission to talk, to laugh, and to enjoy your time on the ice without feeling like you're ruining your chances. But it also means you have a new responsibility: to be conscious of your physical interaction with the ice. Every step, every piece of gear you set down is a message you're sending to the world below. Your goal is to make that message as gentle and non-threatening as possible. This isn't just some fringe theory. It's based on the real physics of sound and the biology of the fish we're trying to catch. Adopting this mindset of smoothness over silence might just be the one change you make this season that dramatically increases the number of fish you see on the end of your line. It's about fishing smarter, not just quieter in the traditional sense. So let's bring it all home. For years, we've been told the big scary monster for ice fishermen is noise, but we've been looking in the wrong closet. The real monster isn't the sound of your voice or the scrape of your shovel. The real fish spooker, the one that sends them running, is the sudden, low-frequency thump of a heavy impact that signals a predator. And the most shocking part, the big twist in this story, is that your super cautious, shuffling, tiptoeing steps might be totally ineffective, while a smooth, normal walk could actually be stealthier from the fish's point of view. The game isn't about total silence. It's about being smooth. It's about avoiding those jarring, seismic shocks that put the fish on high alert. This one shift in thinking can change your entire approach. You can stop worrying about talking and start focusing on what really matters. how you physically interact with the ice. Thank you so much for watching and for taking this deep dive with us. If this video made you rethink your strategy, do me a favor and hit that like button. And make sure you're subscribed for more content that challenges old fishing wisdom. Now I want to hear from you. What's the loudest, most ridiculous thing you've ever done or seen someone do on the ice that you were certain would scare every fish for miles? Let's hear the stories in the comments below.